Hello everybody. Welcome back for another video. Hope you're all doing fantastic. Hope you're all doing well and that you're all having a wonderful day. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already done so. And a very big thank you to everyone who leaves a comment every single day. You are helping out my algorithm. And without any further ado, let's jump right into it. I'm actually the word's not happy. Happy is like a bit too dramatic. But I finally found the articles. There's stuff that I've been talking about for a very long time on this channel. But every time I said it, it was like a side thing. And I was like, I got to find the thing. I finally found the articles. And it's a bit insane. So, and I'll say it this way. When we talk about, okay, listen to my words. When we talk heavily, or I continuously say, I really hope that a lot more people get into crypto and then a lot more people get into Bitcoin. This is going to be exactly why. We currently live on a planet where, and I say in essence, usually the majority of people on the planet, around 4 billion people, actually have access to the current financial system. A large portion of what Bitcoin is for is so that people who are outside of this purview, who are outside of this initial 4 billion, that the other 4 billion people can also have access to the financial world that we also live in. But a number of things end up taking place in the same exact way that it does for traditional finance. Rich people realized about a good 60, 70, 80 years ago, not only could they become rich, but they can also own and hold everything. And a lot of the illusion that we've been taught to see as far as reality is this kind of illusion of choice. There's another article that I also, anyway, I'll find that other article after. There's an article that went around a couple of years ago, and it was talking about the illusion of choice as far as like when you go to the supermarket. If you are not from the States or have never seen what an American supermarket looks like, they're gigantic. Like they're not big, like they're kind of like, oh, wow, how is this humanly possible? They're massively huge. And for those of you within the States who've never seen supermarkets in other countries, they're not as big as yours. It's just not even remotely close. But when you walk through the aisles, whether it be the candy aisle, the cookie aisle, the chicken, bread, you name it, everything has a different color. And you sit there and go, what do you mean different color? One packaging is red, one packaging is green, one is blue, one has like little like lines going on it. One looks like it's like inside of a jungle. Like everything looks completely different. And then when you actually pick up the packaging and turn it to the back, it says like which company actually owns it. And I believe within the United States, all of, if not 99%, of all the chicken production and, you know, the companies and stuff like that are made by 3 companies. These 3 companies own hundreds of other companies that they've created. This is how it works as well. Some of them, they use red packaging because they know that visually people will go for something that's red. Some of them will make sure that there's like red, white, and blue stripes on it because people will prefer to buy an item that has a red, white, and blue stripe on it. Other people will buy packaging that's like usually like more brown, not gray, but like more brown and looks more earthy and has like leaves and green color on it because it makes it look more fresher, more organic. But they're all coming from the exact same factory. It's this illusion that kind of exists out there, which is even crazier to think about because it kind of encompasses nearly the majority of a lot of what's going on around the world. If you've ever gotten a chance to look, you can find articles on it. When I've spoken about before that like the majority of large cities on the planet, you would assume as you go to your local real estate website, when looking for real estate, that is basically kind of all up for grabs. That there's usually maybe one family who owns like 100 apartments, another one owns 3 or 4, and there's this one rich family on the news, you assume they have 500 apartments. So the rest of it is kind of up for grabs for everyday normal people like you to be able to buy the real estate. What you don't see and don't know, and you can actually publicly find this out, is who actually owns these. A lot of very rich, wealthy, and royal families on the planet actually own a large amount of real estate in other countries. I mean, I won't tell you any specific family. It's just more of there are a number of families. Look into who owns Washington, D.C. as well. Look into who owns like 15% of London, 18% of Paris, who owns like a huge amount of Rome, and all these other It's very interesting when you realize that like a lot of it is an illusion. Rich people have figured out for a very long time how to become rich, got it, but how to also own everything with the illusion that there's still a lot out there. Remember when we were also talking about the idea of like corporate landlords? I don't know what it is, but things don't get people riled up enough as it actually should. So if you missed all the discussion last year I don't know why, we kept on having discussions about corporate landlords. And it's basically, and I say mainly, I'm going to say the word mainly, but it's everywhere. This isn't the only place. It's mainly news coming out of the United States, but it's happening everywhere. Everywhere in every single major country. Corporations have kind of figured out that they can like buy up huge amounts of real estate, hold on to it, and they can like dictate the prices of, rent in the future. This is why you've seen and been hearing a lot of times about the last couple of years. Rents keep going up, prices keep going up. Why are my not bills going up? But if you don't know HOA fees, homeowners association, usually in the rest of the world, it's called like house money or like house payments. It's like what you pay to the person or organization who's like controlling the actual land that the actual property is under in some sort of way. Why that keeps going up as well is because all these companies are buying up all of it. There are estimates that by the year 2040, around 80 to 85% of all real estate within the United States will be owned by companies and corporations. And then you sit there and you go, well, who owns the other 15%? It's the people who already own a home and were smart enough not to sell. It's the other family who actually owns 100 places. It's the mom and pop who teach their kids and they have 5 or 6 different properties. It's expected that in the future, rent is going to be whatever these companies want because they own and control everything. So whenever we get news that these companies, these corporations, these entities are buying massive amounts of Bitcoin, this is why I keep saying over and over, I'm like, I hope everyone's paying attention because we are going to enter a world where they own all of it. And this isn't even the phrase, you'll own nothing and you'll be happy. It's literally what things are right now and what they're going to be forever. There will be no way to kind of break out of this. It's kind of like, even if you think of like, I never thought of this when I was younger, but I think about it periodically. When you think about renting, when I was younger, I remember we had to pay rent, got it. But my mind doesn't tell me that we're paying rent to someone. The rent is simply going to the rent ferry, whoever the rent is going to. You don't realize that like a company owns the entirety of the building that you're living in and that they're consistently buying up other buildings. And you have this preconceived notion that any buying that might be going on is just taken care of, like, well, this company owns one building when they really own your entire block. And in the last 15 years, how much more property have they purchased that you are simply not unaware of? Remember I said as well, and it must have been 4 or 5 other videos at this point, I said, please, for the love of God, if you decide to take profits over the course of this cycle, the first thing you should purchase is property, whether to live in rent-free and or so that you have something. the way that things are moving, and once again, I found the actual articles and I was very happy that I remembered to find them and to also show them to you. The world that we are living in now is just the beginning of what you're going to actually see in the future. And it's going to be a world, and I say it this way. Remember I told you, I said the average person cannot afford a tenth of a Bitcoin right now. If you go to 100K, got it. Tenth of a Bitcoin is $10,000. How many people do you know have 10,000 to throw into the market? When Bitcoin goes to 1 million, how many people do you know have $100,000 to buy a tenth of a Bitcoin? How many people do you know have $5,000 to put into the market right now? When Bitcoin goes up to multiple millions of dollars per coin, this is where the actual great divide, like you want to talk about like the wealth transfer, it's making sure that the wealth and the power is only in the hands of those who have the wealth and the power. If we're hearing that governments and countries are accumulating Bitcoin, because it is, for those of you who don't know why Bitcoin is also very exciting to banks and institutions and hedge funds, it's the first new asset class that we've had in a long time. It's a brand new asset class, literally up for grabs. It is the new gold rush. We have art, we have equities, we have real estate, we have land, we have lakes, we have fresh water sources, we have a whole, we even have sky rights and all these other things. If you've never heard of sky rights, it's literally like the rights to the land, to the air above like a certain building. It's very dystopian in its manner. But Bitcoin and crypto are the new, like this is the new kid on the block. This is the new thing that's sending all these rich people off because they go, if real estate appreciated incredibly since the year 1950 to where we are now, where's Bitcoin's price going to be in the next 20 to 30 something years? This is why we see so much of it. Like really, this is why we see so much of it being purchased. But it's also only being purchased by people who are paying attention to everything that's actually going on. Everyone else is kind of in this fog of not really understanding exactly where all this money is moving and how big this money actually is. So when you hear something like BlackRock is getting into Bitcoin, understand first and foremost, they are not doing it for you. They're doing it for BlackRock to become even wealthier than they've ever been before, ever. What happens when all these companies incorporate, think about it. What happens when they own all the real estate? What can you do as a renter? Not a gosh darn thing. What happens when they own all the farmland, all the fresh water sources? Think about it, like think further. What happens in this mad rush that we're seeing when we talk about 9 companies, 9, not 10, not 900, not 9,000, 9 companies acquired nearly 1.5 million Bitcoin in less than a year. When I tell you, where do you think Bitcoin is going? Why do you think all of this is happening? This is it. We have entered a new age. There's a brand new asset class that is up for grabs, and very few people are paying attention. When I found this, I was once again very happy. This is an article from September 2020. For those of you who are not looking at the screen, it says these 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. These 6 corporations control 90% of the media outlets in America. The illusion of choice and objectivity, for those of you not looking at the screen. These 6 corporations are Comcast, Disney, CBS, AT&T, News Corporation, and Viacom. And even since then, usually around every year, the expansion continues. So they probably control around 93 to 94% of all actual media outlets within the country. Think about it. It's really insane because years ago, it was not like this. nearly all of the protections that were there were knocked out by Nixon and Reagan. In the 70s and 80s, all protections that were actually like in place to make sure that there were at least 50 different places to get your news from, all those protections dropped. So what ends up happening is that a lot of times if there's like even crazier, you want to hear something crazy? Even if there's like a massive YouTube channel that has 18 million subscribers and like they bring you, like some type of news, what happens behind the scenes that most people don't know, these companies, like the ones on the screen, they end up going to these people and they say, hey, you guys are doing an absolutely incredible job. We've placed evaluations on your company, cool. And we see that you're currently worth around $20 million, for what you do, the money that you bring in, your ad revenue, yada, yada, yada. We are willing to offer you $38 million to purchase your company. And the founders go, that's double the valuation. Yes, I know, it seems very generous because we like what you do. So usually one of two things happen. The actual companies on the screen will either control 100% of the company, like they'll buy it outright, or they tell this company, or we can give you around a good $25-30 million so that we have the majority stake in the company, but you run it exactly how you want it until we tell you what news you can't and can't actually put out there. That's exactly how it works. 6 companies, more than 90% of the literal media and news that you are receiving. Imagine how that changes when they control everything, and everything you consume is only one type of thing from these companies, and it always just benefits them. Never forget that. In money, it's always benefiting the big guy. The other article that I also found, for those of you not looking at the screen, it says these 3 companies, 3 companies, control 88% of the largest corporations in America. Can you guess that you should know the name of one of the corporations? Remember when I told you before, there's a video online, I'm also going to try and find it, where this guy is, he's discussing actual money movements in markets and where things are going. And part of the video, he was saying that the average consumer, especially those in America, has no idea of the actual levels of accumulation of wealth and how rich these people actually are. Remember the other scenario, which I was telling you before from another thing? It's this idea of like illusional equality. So let's say, for those of you who missed that story that day, let's say you and another person leave your house at the exact same time. You leave in a brand new car. It looks absolutely wonderful. You're driving down the road. The other person, whose name is Sally, sure, why not, also gets into her car, and it's a very, very beautiful, nice car. They both equally in value, the cars. I want to say they're over $100,000. You both drive to, driving for about a good 20-30 minutes. You finally get to where you're going. You actually end up parking next to each other. You don't know each other, but you smile. You walk into a store. She walks into the same store. You're like, wow, this chick is following me. And you buy something very nice and very expensive. It costs around $1,500. She decides to buy something that's not as expensive. Hers is around $900. Over the course of the day, you're in the same mall. You're around the same exact areas. You keep bumping into each other. Oh, sorry, didn't mean to. You walk around each other. You decide to call some of your friends. She calls some of her friends, and there's like a really nice restaurant about 5 blocks away that you really want to go to. You go to the restaurant with your friend. She also ends up being there as well. You tell your friends like this, I've been seeing her the entire day. They go, well, that's really weird. Maybe she's crazy. You realize at some point when the bill comes, you kind of spent a lot of money on what you ordered, but it's okay. You want to treat your friends. One of them is having a birthday. The bill comes out to around $200, $300. Cool. I'm going to pay it. Her and her friends, they also have a really good time. Her bill comes out to around $500. You both drove in similar cars. You lived in similar neighborhoods. You went to similar places to go shopping, to go eat. You both tapped and swiped your card whenever you needed to. You both had a very similar day. But what behind the scenes is actually different? The first person is around $200,000, $300,000 in debt. The way that they keep things going is by putting everything on multiple cards. They have about 10 different cards. This is a real thing that happens to a lot of people. They keep tapping their card and swiping their card, and they even put other cards onto other cards just to give them like a little bit of, breathing room. Sally, however, is rich. She came into some money. She realized how to invest. She bought about 15 different properties, and those properties create such a huge amount of cash flow that every 3 or 4 months she goes back to the bank and says, you know what, I want to buy some more properties. And they go, cool, Sally, we love you. And she continues to get richer and richer. Where we currently are in the world, wealth inequality is worse than it was in the Victorian era, where 8 people, 12 people lived in a shack together. No water, no electricity, no fresh food. While a couple of miles away, kings and queens were living like kings and queens. It's because we are, in essence, allowed to now commingle. Have you ever seen those videos where like people are like walking up to celebrities and they're like, oh my gosh, I love your music. And like, that was not a thing. This level of wealth kept you apart on purpose. But now there's an illusion of everything is kind of the same. I can sit in the same room as them. I can eat a burger where they had a burger. I can go to the exact same event that they went to because I have a ticket. When in reality, the wealth of these people is so staggeringly different that you will essentially never ever be able to catch up to them. And the only in this way, crypto is such an interesting magical force in that it literally will help pluck you from not only poverty, but also like middle class. We are in a world, where people can't pay their rent and will never own any property. Do you think that's going to get better? Or do you think it'll continue moving in one direction? The news that we had before when that guy was talking in the video, he said 3 companies, 1, 2, 3, own 50% of all stock markets. All of them collectively put together. That's why a lot of times when we keep getting news about these companies, if you haven't seen it before, you get news a lot like BlackRock has a new office in this country and a new so-and-so. They're buying up everything because when you control everything, you control everything. What happens when they own all the real estate? Really think about it. It's completely insane to actually put into context. And then you have it right there. It says it's somewhere around here. The 3 companies, for those of you who were wondering, are BlackRock, Vanguard, and State Street. Yes. BlackRock, Vanguard, and State Street are names you've probably heard of. However, most people are unfamiliar with their extensive control over the corporate world. These asset management firms, collectively known as the Big 3, dominate the $15 trillion global passive equity funds industry and control over $60 trillion in assets under management. 3 companies control 88% of corporations in America. Often associated with financial stability and asset management, however, their reach extends far beyond passive investments. There's a paper called Hidden Power of the Big 3 Passive Index Funds by some researcher, yada, yada, yada. Where's the actual thing? One of these 3 firms wields such immense power that Bloomberg has called them the 4th branch of government. There's a part here, and I don't know if I can find the actual wording of it. Yes, there we go. Here we go. The dominance of BlackRock, Vanguard, and State Street is not just in terms of market share, but also their approach to ownership. Hear my words and hear them good. BlackRock, Vanguard, and State Street hold the largest shareholder positions in 40% of all listed U.S. companies and 88% of S&P 500 firms. Unlike actively managed funds, their positions are held permanently. One more time. You know how like a lot of times you'll see these people like trading, like whatever? What they buy is theirs. And they buy things. Here's the kicker. Here's the best part. They buy things that make them money passively. Why? Not only so they can go live their best lives on boats and stuff like that. They hold these companies permanently. I own it. This will always be mine. The money that you make from that, from now into forever, you get more money from it and you loop it back around and you buy more of that company. Remember Sally? All the money she was making from her properties. You use the rental income and you use that to buy more properties. Then you hold forever, permanently. You do not let go. Unlike actively managed funds, these positions are held permanently, which gives the big three a unique and long-term influence over corporate governance. What happens when you buy property and you hold on to it forever? What happens when you buy 16 houses and you hold on to them forever? As the land appreciates, as the home appreciates, as the rent appreciates. When you hear me talk about the longevity of investments and the cryptocurrency market, this is a smidge of what I'm actually alluding to. If Bitcoin goes to several $1 million per coin, listen, if it goes to several $1 million per coin, if this year is the beginning of being able to stake your Bitcoin, to have passive income, for those of you who missed that, there are a number of protocols that are going to be rolled out this year on chain and on other chains to allow you to stake essentially your Bitcoin in a DeFi protocol to make passive income. Very few of you actually understand how rich that you're going to get if you are in this market and if you've been in this market. This is, and I say this not to scare you, not to be dramatic, this is probably one of your last chances to actually become rich, and it's in crypto. Once again, it's not to scare you. Housing has become incredibly unaffordable, both to rent and to buy outright. Land. I mean, you go across the art, all these asset classes. When you talk about Ethereum going from $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 to potentially $25,000 in a number of years, that begins wealth creation. When you talk about XRP going from 1 cent to $3 to $16 to $38 in years in the future, that is wealth creation. They own everything and they want more of it. When you keep standing up, clapping whenever rich people buy crypto, it's cringy because they already own everything. It's your chance now to do the same. It's such a powerful moment in time, in history. It's not a joke. Remember years ago, there was someone, I don't know who used to always say it, but it was this thing where he was like, you're going to tell your grandkids in 2045, 2050, I remember when Bitcoin was 1,000 and they'll be like, there's no way. No one saw Bitcoin at 1,000. It's not possible. You'll be able to tell them all these things. I remember growing up. I remember growing up, and I remember when rent for a 1-bedroom was like $400, like really, and like I considered it nice when I was a child. I remember like TV shows. Remember the TV show, The Wire? Great show. There's somewhere towards the end of the series, it's not spoiling it for anyone, but towards the end of the series, one of the main characters in the show, he realizes he has to like move his money around. You can't keep it in one place the whole time. So he starts buying like condominiums, starts buying apartments and stuff like that. And I remember watching it. There was a sign on one of the buildings. I think it said starting at like $60,000 to buy a 1 or 2 bedroom. That was like, what was that, 2001, 2002? We live in a world where companies and corporations are buying everything. It's not that they're thinking about it. These people actively own everything. Now, even crazier, something that a lot of people probably also missed. If 3 companies control 88% of these companies, what happens when you stack, how like first on the list, second on the list, third on the list? What happens when you put the top 10 companies on that list? Do they already control 97% of everything that's happening with these companies and corporations? Remember I told you about the slow takeover. There's a podcast. Hold on. I'm trying to find the name of it. I think it's called, hold on. I have to find the podcast app. I think it's called Acquired. 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 Every company has a story. It's actually even owned by JP Morgan. Surprise, surprise. It's really funny because they go over these like mega companies and how they were created and stuff like that. And one of the things that we also spoke about years ago was the slow takeover of LVMH, like Louis Vuitton essentially, and all these other companies who they also control. It didn't happen overnight. It didn't happen in one fell swoop. Bernard realized years ago, 20, 30 years ago, that all these companies were listed on the stock market. So he told his people, he said, buy some of their company in chunks, a 0.25% of that company. Buy it every single month, 0.25%. So after 4 months, they held 1% of the company. And it kept on going on and on and on. And there were multiple companies who were actually at risk of being delisted on a number of stock exchanges because no one was trading them. Did you get why? No one's trading them because him and his people owned so much of it. They were holding it permanently. All the other stock that was out there was owned by other big companies who also were like, I'm not selling anything. So at some point, someone had to come forward and go, yeah, we've been buying up that company for the last 8 years. And they were doing it across the board. They became the majority owners of so many of these companies in the early 90s and early 2000s by simply being quiet and buying everything. So over the course of the last 20 to 30 years, these companies own everything. Isn't it fascinating? It's hyper dystopian, but it's also like, yeah, when I keep talking about crypto assets and who they're for, it's you. But who's buying all of them? It's all the companies and corporations. And a lot of times, last point, a lot of times people sit there and they go, well, Disney's not buying, CBS isn't buying. You need to look into what shell companies actually are and how they actually work and how big money actually moves when it comes to all these things. Anyway, yeah, I did not mean to, it wasn't really a rant and ramble, but I've been telling you this for so long. We've been going over this, and I was finally able to show you all the things that I've been talking about. Yeah, very fascinating time in general, across the board, from A to Z. But yeah, if you're in this long term, you are going to succeed. I hope that you all not only retire early, but continue investing forever. think of how rich you're going to be in the next couple of years because of crypto, because of this new asset class. I have a number of friends who are like deep into the crypto market. I'll tell you this, they never plan on selling because they're convinced that at some point when Bitcoin goes up to several $1 million, that's when they'll start tapping their card and swiping their card because they know they're only going to be selling a small portion of it as Bitcoin's price continues to rise and rise and rise. I do hope sincerely that you've all enjoyed. I do hope that you all are having a great day, morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are, wherever you might be. I do hope it is absolutely fantastic. Thank you all once again for watching, listening, liking, commenting, and supporting. And I will most certainly be talking to you all soon. See you.